So now we're back with the thoughts videos again. So now we're back with Star Wars. Now I haven't talked about the new era, the Rise of Skywalker, because if I talk about it, I'll get mad and I will complain. And I really want to save that for when we move eventually and I get some fancy new stuff gear ready. But anyways, so I wanted to wait before I ever do that video, but it will happen, along with my pessimistic ideology with the ending to the movie. But we're going to talk about Star Wars, but we're talking about this new big Project Luminous initiative they're doing, which is Star Wars The High Republic. Something that has been brought up in certain comics, like they were building up to it. You know, like how DC Comics is doing the 5G thing, which is basically a reboot, which is really a reboot because Dan DiDio, who is now fired, by the way, is plotting to do this event and with it, but then he got fired, and now no one knows what's the event going to be. Like, is it a full-on reboot? Is it going to be a semi-retcon reboot? Is it going to be a soft reboot? Who knows? But enough about that time. So, the High Republic is Project Luminous, the secret Project Luminous. A lot of people were wondering what this big thing they were talking about for about a year and a quarter, I believe. And everyone was curious to know, what's the story about? What's it going to be? What's it going to take place in? What's it going to tell the tale of? There was an article that came out that said the next set of films after that movie was going to be in the High Republic era. So I was thinking, okay, it can't be that. And it can't be the Old Republic era. Because it can't be the Old Republic era because that's also rumored to be movies. And it can't be whatever Rian Johnson's doing. And surprisingly, that's the one thing that they keep tight-lipped about. Like, they even don't know what's the next movies for Rian Johnson. And the other thing was, like, a lot of people, including leaks that were coming out saying Project Luminous was going to be about the post-era Rise of Skywalker. Except, I had a hard time thinking that was going to be it. Like, really so soon? Okay. The other reason why is because let's be honest, the Rise of Skywalker was a complete mess because here's the thing. There was so much editorial involvement from the higher-ups who didn't know what fans loved about Star Wars and hired people who just wouldn't get Star Wars like fans or those who grew up with it for 30 years did. 40 years, 30 years. Probably up to 50 now. Now is 2020. But like, this was the problem. Like, even I knew that wasn't going to fix it. Like, they would have to somehow go into huge crunch time just to find a way to tangle all the cobwebs they made, all the spider webs they made, of all the retcons and changes they made, all in production after The Last Jedi happened. So, yeah, they would have to fix all that mess, and I'm pretty sure Disney didn't have the time to do that because they don't care. Oh, by the way, Bob Iger got removed from power. I was surprised by that, especially after the whole issue with George Lucas. Like, they didn't care, but anyways. So then I heard, then the announcement was finally said, we're going to talk about it, we're finally revealing it, and lo and behold, we're going to go back into the past, 200 years before the Phantom Menace happened. And when I heard this, I was like, okay, you have my curiosity with this. You don't have my attention yet, but curiosity because during the between and I'm bringing this up because God knows this will be the most amount brung up instead of Disney doing it, because in the trailer when they announced the High Republic and all the things they want to do, they never talk about the Legends canon. They never talk about the old EU. I'm not saying, and someone might tell me, oh, that's just garbage. All of it was garbage, and none of it was great, and all of it sucked, even though there's good and bad works, and that's also subjective. But anyways, moving on from that point, Um, I was thinking like, can you guys just acknowledge the expanding universe happened, the ones everyone grew up with for 40 years? Could they just, at the very least, acknowledge that yes, there were ideas, there were concepts we loved, and we felt like we could expand it in the new turning page of the Star Wars canon. Could they just acknowledge that? Like I always see these Legends characters, Legends aspects coming back. They never say where it came from, other than unless it's Thrawn. They don't want to say Mara Jade because we don't know if she's existing or yet, even though we're hinting at it, even though there was a character that looked like her, but we're not gonna say it's her. We want to be mysterious about it because reasons. And yeah. And plus, it wouldn't surprise me if this was secretly an initiative by Disney. Like, let's make tie-ins of the tie-ins to just get whatever the hell's going on. But that's a completely different subject to me. But I just want them to acknowledge that, yes, the old canon happened. It happened. And I know I'm complaining, but I just can't help but be missing of the old days. And like there's 100 different reasons why I kept thinking to myself, why can't they just do the multiverse thing? They have a Legends imprint. Just call it Legends. There's DC 616. There's Marvel 616's universe. There's DC Universe. There's DC, just that. There's Earth 1. There's Wonder Comics. Why is it so hard for two universes to exist? Okay, but that's enough of my wishful thinking that maybe they could find a way to balance out, like Disney can still have their stuff and we can get back our stuff and have fun with it again. And have hopefully a more repaired community, because even Star Wars The Clone Wars probably won't be able to fix the damage that was done. I still think it was damage control to an extent. But the High Republic trailer, when I saw it, I was curious, but I didn't feel excited. Like, I was glad they were finally you're actually thinking the prequels existed, because you spent 3 movies acting like it never existed and thought everything in that era was dumb. But I digress. But then there was this moment that really irated me a little bit, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, Disney, you really, really don't get this problem you have. Like, when they were showing this list of what they think about Star Wars, and there's two times it's in that list showing representation, diversity, and I'm thinking like, okay, look, I get it. You want to be more inclusive. You want to add more of society stuff and more of our real world aspects into the Star Wars universe. I get that. I really do. But I'm hoping that they don't overblow it like it's the greatest thing ever. Like, oh my god, a woman is attracted to a woman. It is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I'm thinking to myself, but there was already an LGBT character back in KOTOR 1. Yeah, a lot of people really forget this because they never overly said it, but they did give away that, yes, Juhani from Knights of the Old Republic 1 is in fact a lesbian, and yet no one brought that up in the game, and everyone just kind of moved past it like, oh, that's a thing, okay. But then when Disney's canon happened and they revealed an LGBT character, everyone went through the roof crazy, and publications were saying this is the biggest moment in Star Wars. And I'm left thinking, wow, so something that they did 10 years ago does not exist to you. Because they didn't blow it up like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like, I'm not homophobic. I'm not any of these I'm not against transgenders. I like Nyla Rose from AEW, and she's transgendered. I just don't like is this whole we got to overblow it and build up on it. And yeah, I know it sounds like that's exactly what I'm doing, but I don't like it when when companies and media have to do it. Like, this is the biggest moment. Like, everyone should stop what they're doing and focus on this, because it's something that's never been done in media. Like Legend of Korra, they didn't overblow it. They just said it happened. Oh, by the way, they're a couple now. Like, granted, Nickelodeon gave the restrictions saying we don't want tender moments to build up to it, but it exists, and they probably would have done better with it, but not really overblow it. And the other thing I kept thinking was Steven Universe. Like, they have characters that are LGBT. There's, in fact, in Steven Universe Future, there's a non-binary character played by a non-binary actor dating Sadie, who is no longer interested in Lars, and they don't blow it up. Like, the reason Steven's even surprised that this character exists isn't because of who he is as a person, who they are as a person. It's because, you're dating Sadie? Wow. That's a huge change I never saw coming, but they didn't do it because, oh, you're a non-binary character? What is that? That's a very interesting thing. We gotta talk about this for like 5 minutes and be over preachy about it. Like, they just treated it like it was a normal everyday thing. Like, society should be treating normal everyday people. Like, who cares if they're non-binary? That's their identity. And then I'm left wondering to myself, why is the media so overblowing about it? I get there was a time where people looked down on that, especially in the 90s. But now it's like, we grew up. We should just be like, it's normal for us to have this. And yeah, now I'm going into politics on this. So okay, let me get back to the conversation I was having. So, anyways, I spent like 7 minutes, I think. Oh god, I'm pretty sure I pissed off a lot of people, but that's my opinion, and I'm not gonna change that view set. But so anyways, then they talk about the frontier, so to speak. The Republic's in this peaceful era. It's expanding. It's doing this golden age they're doing, and I'm pretty certain they did explore this in the old canon, but there was something I always kept thinking that really made me think this a lot. It's just not as interesting in a lot of people's minds, I think. Like, whenever people talk about the in-between, say, within the 1,000-year period during the golden age of the Republic, that people like to call it, during the old canon, they talked about it, they mentioned it, they sometimes showed it, but the focus was always on the Sith. Like Darth Bane and Darth Plagueis or Darth Sidious. What they were doing in the shadows of this during this golden age that the Sith allowed the Republic to grow weak on so they can exploit it and take over. Like, I think that was the big thing. Like, it's the same philosophy I have with people when there are people ask why does the world not just come together in peace, and I'm thinking, and part of my reason is, well, one is old grudges from centuries ago from different people that instilled it into their children upon their children upon their children, and the other one is companies don't like it when there's peace because that means less money for their corporate pockets, mostly the military industrial complex, but that's a different subject. Before I get bogged down in political discussion, and now I'm probably going to get killed in the comments if anyone sees this video. Oh well. So then they go ahead and talk about what scares the Jedi the most. Okay, this is the part that kind of bothered me. Not, and they also talk about these creatures, this space Vikings, which kind of sounds awesome, but they seem to treat the Vikings as this barbarous group of people when the Vikings were a little bit more, a little bit more complex and actually were ahead of their time at some points. And in some cases, they discovered the new land before Christopher Columbus, but then they just abandoned the area. But, let's ignore that part about Vikings. But, And they also say we're also mixing in the Texas Ranger vibe of the Wild West of the galaxy. And I was like, I always thought the Unknown Regions was that. Not unconquered territory. Like, it's more like, oh, we see it's there and it's a problem, but we don't have the resources to expand to that area and, stop it. When I think of the Wild West of the Star Wars universe, I'm thinking, oh, the unexplored area of space, the uncharted areas, the unknown regions. That's what I'm always thinking, at least. But yeah, that's what I've always thought of it. But so back to this. I go ahead and then they go ahead into this talk about what scares the Jedi the most, what is it that Jedi are afraid of, and then they go all something wicked this way comes, and I'm thinking, here's something I'm gonna say. I know I've been so negative in this video regarding this concept. I'm glad that they're taking some new directions with this. I really am, but there's just some things that irate me a little bit. But the part where they say something wicked this way comes to what could scare the Jedi the most, and some people would think, oh, it's because all the source material that doesn't exist, because Kathleen Kennedy said that. Anyways, here's what I kept thinking. Like, okay, I get the Jedi have this, like, the Jedi are not really scared. Like, maybe the closest thing they would be scared of is the Sith. But even then, they fight them, for the most part. But in an era where there was supposed to be, where they think there's no Sith, that they would be scared of people with guns, even though they reject guns, or do they have force wielders then? And then does the Great Disaster have a role in this? Because they do mention it's going to be a great disaster, which means we got to tie this into DC's countdown somehow, so look forward to DC Star Wars crossing over. That will be freaking awesome. But, the one thing I kept thinking, like, when I think of what do the Jedi fear the most, that gave me a little bit of a pause, because I was thinking, when I was playing the games, I was watching the shows, I was reading the books, I even read fan fictions, and they all seem to have the same theme when they want to go into a long, big story, whenever it involves the Jedi Order of the old era. And it starts with a C. That thing they fear most is change. They fear change. It's not attachments, it's not that. It's a melting pot of all of it, and it's only one word. Change. That's the one thing the old Jedi Order always feared of. How do I know this? KOTOR 2. They go ahead, Master Vrook goes ahead and outright tells the Exile, and Master Zeskael said this line, saying that if the Exile had stayed, she would have changed us, and that we could not allow. But they couldn't kill her, but it clearly does sound like they wanted to contemplate that idea, but they were on their philosophy that we don't kill, we're the high above ground moral people. But we kicked you out, even though we could have really actually helped you with your psychological trauma and probably figure out this together while not thinking it's the dark side because we're crazy like that. Like, they bring that up, and I'm thinking, like that's the one singular theme I love most about the Jedi Order of the old era. Because you see all these cruel things they did when you research it really deeply, but then you realize the Jedi, they have a fear. It's not the dark side. It's not attachments. It's not any outside forces. It's change that fears them. It's change that they are afraid of. If they embrace change, they don't know what's in front of them. They always love to think that there's something that we can see what's in front of us. We have our eyes wide open. We can see right directly in front of us. And whenever there's something that they don't see and they can't see it, they think it's the dark side. It's evil. It's something dark. We must treat it with all hostility. Like Anakin, like he was seen as abnormal because they couldn't see his future automatically right then and there when he was a little boy. And look how that paranoia turned out for them. Yeah. In fact, in the legend stories, in the Old Republic comics, the Jedi Covenant, which was a splinter group, had a vision of the end of the Republic. They couldn't see what it was. They couldn't see the threat. They didn't know if it was a when, if, or how. They didn't know who did it. They don't know when it's supposed to happen. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know who did it. So what's the logical step? Kill their Padawans and go ahead and blame it on somebody else and then try to get away with murder. Remember, the Jedi are the good guys. Oh, and the Council, when they're told about this and they blame it on a Padawan that wasn't at the killings, and he's blamed, they automatically believe the Jedi Covenant because they're masters and they know more than stupid children, apparently. Oh my God. Seriously. The Jedi are not heroic people. There's like a couple of good Jedi, but really, when you think about it, the Sith at least admit they're evil people. Like, they don't say they're evil, but they admit, yeah, we're crazy. We're really fucked up in the head. So, yeah, the High Republic. What do the Jedi fear? Oh, well, if it's not the change, if it's not the C word change, then what is it? What could possibly scare them more than change? Because here's the thing. If they do an endgame storyline, since this looks like to be a multi-year project, if they do an endgame storyline with this, the one thing I am hoping for is that this is what I'm hoping for. And this actually would be an interesting route, because it was explored a little bit in Legends, but it immediately stops at a very short time. And sometimes it's mentioned in exposition, but the one kind of story I would actually love to see in this is a story where the Jedi Order is actually changing. That the Jedi Order of the old era is embracing change. But then something happens that makes them reverse course and go back to the status quo. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, you had the choice to change, and because of one F up the moment, you backed out on it. The one thing that could have saved you all in the future, and you screwed it up. So, yeah, they could do that kind of story. I would be all for it. But, yeah, this is going to extend out into comics and books and maybe a movie or two. It was reported that was going to be a movie. There was also going to be some movies set in this time period, so I don't really know what's going to happen outside of that. I'm just hoping Disney just lets them go full steam ahead with this instead of shackling them like, okay, here's some of the stuff we can't do, and here's some of the stuff you need to do, like overblow stuff for no particular reason because it's supposed to be an awesome, surprising moment, even though it should be just treated as a normal everyday occurrence in life for society, but not like, oh, look, the satellite's exploding! Is anyone a little surprised that a satellite exploded and people are dead? And we're in the middle of peace? Shut up, man! There's LGBT elements right here. I think that's normal for us, right? But we're supposed to focus on it. The author said so. Yeah, anyways. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be killed in the comments from this. But anyways, so yeah, the Star Wars High Republic Initiative. I want to be hopeful. I really want to be hopeful. I want good quality Star Wars, long-term quality Star Wars content that at least is consistently good, instead of being one half good, then horribly bastardized later on, then looking like it's going an interesting route, then immediately reversing course on that because it's the coward's way. Because that's the coward's way out of handling situations like that. Because, oh no, that would be interesting and different. So yeah, those were my thoughts on Star Wars The High Republic trailer project announcement, or High Republic Initiative announcement. Sorry if I ran on tangents on several occasions. I tend to do that when I get a little passionate on this, but passion leads to the dark side. So I'm clearly a Sith now, right? Okay. So those were my thoughts. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. If you like, comment, subscribe, and donate, stay tuned for more.